But first, in his gratuitous spray against Peter Dutton last week, the Treasurer was showing a touch of desperation. And with his attack today on the Reserve Bank Governor, Jim Chalmers is confirming that this government knows it's in deep trouble. Now, take it from me, if the government were doing a better job, it would not be lashing out and blaming everyone but itself for what's going wrong. The Treasurer reckons that it's the Reserve Bank's job, and it's the Reserve Bank, he says, that's smashing the economy. As he told journalist Samantha Maiden on the weekend, and I quote, "With all this global uncertainty on top of the impact of rate rises that are smashing the economy, it would be no surprise at all if the national accounts on Wednesday show that growth is soft and subdued," making it pretty clear that Chalmers is looking to blame the RBA for bad growth figures he anticipates this week. It didn't take too long for other ministers to chime in, trying to browbeat the bank.
We don't want to see the Reserve Bank go too far. We want to make sure that we do continue to grow as an economy, and importantly, that people remain in employment.
That's leading the witness, though, a bit there, isn't it? Is it not?
No, I think it's perfectly reasonable for the government to point out that households have really been smashed in their incomes.
That was, of course, before the PM tried to say nothing to see here, despite that blame shifting from the Treasurer.
Look, the Treasurer's comments were absolutely nothing new. He has made the comment about the economy slowing for a long period of time, and economists are expecting, when the figures are released this week, that they will show a modest growth. That is just a fact.
And then the Treasurer himself, sensing he was on thin ice, tried to walk back his loose talk.
As I've said a number of times in this press conference, we work very closely with the Independent Reserve Bank. Governor Bullock has her own difficult job to do, and we have our own difficult job to do, and our objectives are aligned. Everybody wants us to get on top of this inflation challenge in our economy.
Let's be clear, the main reason the bank's been raising interest rates for the past 2 years is because the government's been flooding the economy with money. If Commonwealth spending as a percentage of GDP had not gone up 2 percentage points under that bloke, the bank would not have had to raise interest rates as far and as fast. As it is, the RBA is hitting the economic brake because the Albanese government can't help putting its foot on the economic accelerator with all of that big spending and social policy portfolios like the out-of-control NDIS. So rather than demonising the Reserve Bank, which is only doing its job, the government should be lifting its own economic game. In particular, the government should stop making it harder and harder for businesses to keep their existing markets or to create new ones. Now, what's the message to business, large and small, when a new billion-dollar mine that would create thousands of jobs, that's passed every state and federal environmental hurdle, gets kiboshed at the 11th hour by the Federal Environment Minister on Aboriginal heritage grounds that local Aboriginal leaders say are spurious? These leaders claim they are the official Aboriginal authority for the area, and they didn't have any cultural objections to the mine proceeding, nor did the minister's own cultural assessor, who also said the mine should go ahead.
My old people would be rolling in their grave if they knew that our culture is being hijacked for hidden agendas. And it's not right. How are we going to close the gap? The biggest killer of Aboriginal people in this country isn't alcohol and drugs. It's absolute poverty and welfare dependency. And here we got a minister that's knocking back $1 billion mine that could create economic empowerment for my people.
Roy RC's comments there are incredibly powerful because they are the truth. Last week, the PM indulged in this ridiculous pretense that he was for the gold mine, claiming there was no reason why it couldn't proceed, even though it's his own government that's killed it off.
The gold mine can go ahead. What has happened is a decision based upon a tailings dam. Chris Minns would like it to go ahead. I'd like it to go ahead too.
Over the weekend, it emerged that Albanese had been specifically warned 2 months ago via a letter to him from the company that the mine would not go ahead if the minister blocked the tailings dam. Well, first the PM took no action to rein in his ideologically driven, hard-left colleague Tanya Plibersek. Then he pretended that the mine still could go ahead despite that ban on the tailings dam. Finally now, he's washed his hands of the whole project, saying none of his business.
The law says that the Environment Minister makes a decision, and I don't break the law. So the Environment Minister is responsible under the EPBC Act.
Just like COVID, where no senior politician is responsible for anything. But how can it be none of the PM's business when it's his government that's blocking the mine and all those jobs and at least $200 million in state royalties alone? It's not the RBA that's making us poorer. It's the Albanese government that's making us poorer because of all of these green obsessions. As the company said, Regis, blocking the tailings dam would mean, and I quote, a potential 5 to 10 year reapproval process. Then there's the fact that there are no new gas fields being approved, even though in Australia we've got massive untapped reserves in Narrabri, the Beetaloo Basin and Browse. So to keep the lights on, experts are reporting today, we're going to have to start importing expensive gas from overseas rather than use what we're blessed to have in the ground. Adam Watson, CEO of one of the nation's largest energy operators, the APA Group, told The Australian it was likely Australia, one of the world's largest gas exporters, would have to import LNG after years of failing to bolster domestic supplies. When it comes to the economy, this government is completely clueless. Labor ministers can complain all they like about the Reserve Bank, but with a government that's turning its back on developing our resources, voters will know who's to blame.